anymore. You're hearing clearer and clearer and clearer, you know, the information network that's available to you that before might have passed you by.
And if you weren't so clear, you might not be magnetizing such clear information back. I mean, this clarity is really a key point, isn't it?
That's right. And to get that clarity, I think that the best tool is to spend a few minutes every day going inwards and, like you said, you know, going through the levels of densities and deeper towards singularity. And I like to think of it as even like mechanically, physically, you know, I think of it like if you can visualize yourself as all the cells in your body, which is already a very, you know, to become aware of that level is very good. I generally say now you've connected with the biological entity of our planet, the planetary field. And then, you know, if you go deeper and you start to connect with all the atoms that makes all of the cells of your body, now you've connected with the solar system field, you know, because all the atoms, you know, all the material we see in our world actually came out of the sun. And then, you know, and then I say if you go deeper and you connect with the nuclei of the atom, you know, like the protons, now you've connected with the morphogenic field of the whole galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I call becoming the galactic being, you know, to actually start to become and be the awareness of the galaxy, to realize that you are floating inside a galaxy and that you can choose to visualize yourself, to experience the world from a galactic perspective. And when you look at it from a galactic perspective, all of a sudden it's very easy to see the Earth as one. It's very easy to blur the lines between, you know, the countries, between the differences that you see in personalities or in skin colors and so on. That all kind of goes away when you look at the Earth from the galactic perspective.
Take that conversely in what happens in a very large percentage of lives of people on the planet, including a lot of people watching this right now, which is the opposite. Excuse me. Magnetizing realities to them that do not reflect what they desire out of fear, trauma, programming, whatever you want to call it.
That's right. We all do a certain amount of that. And, you know, it's part of, I mean, it's remarkable, actually, considering the world we live in, that we're able to actually survive the experience. You know, when you look at, you know, the first moments of birth on this planet, typically some serious trauma happens within the first 10 minutes. I mean, you know, these bright lights, you're pulled out of your mother, your umbilical cord is cut while still pulsing, you know, you're pulled away from your mother, you know, you're hung by your feet. I mean, acid is put in your eyes, tubes are put up your nose. I mean, by then, you have already serious trauma that has been, you know, implemented, and then it goes on, you know, and I think that so we all have a certain amount of that programming that's running in the background that constantly self-sabotages.
Much of it collective programming, but with our own flavors, our own individuated programming.
That's right. And, you know, and the way our society is built, the technology we use is so, you know, precarious and so on, that, you know, our society is set up to continue the trauma. I mean, you know, you're having a great day, you had a beautiful breakfast with your family and so on, you get in your car, next thing you know, you're on a 6-lane highway, you know, everybody cutting you off, and then you get into, you know, traffic, and I mean, and remaining in that, you know, sense of the connectivity with the universe, and nothing in our society encourages that, or very little. So it's a very big effort, you know, for a person to actually take the time every day to find that singularity, to find that point of stillness at the center of their existence, which they can do in a few minutes, just by concentrating their energy towards the center of their existence, and to, throughout the day, keep a log of how far they've gone from that point of stillness into the spin. You can compare it to the center of a hurricane, which is in that stillness, right? And the spin, you know, which is extreme, right at the edge of that stillness. And
we spend most of our time at the extreme edge.
That's right, in that spin. And but if we take the time every morning to like connect with the stillness, then at least we know how to get back to it.
Yes.
So if we experience the spin throughout our day, then we can go, oh, I'm spinning. Let me take a minute, you know, excuse me, I got, you know, during the board meeting, excuse me, I got to go to the washroom, and just like go back to that point of singularity, go back to that point of infinite potential, go back to that connection of the universe, all of the universe, every atom, all of the energy of the universe that's constantly supporting you. And from that point, then again we're back into control, into center. And then we can move through our day again. But if there is no monitoring of where we are relative to that center, if we don't know where that center is, there's no gauge for us to know how far we are in the spin.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, let's take that to the opposite extreme with individuals who have chosen to make their life the understanding of that stillness inside.
Yes.
And you can find many of the great masters in India who are in caves and who are brought their rice and have essentially a lack of materiality around them on the most the commonly understood level.
Right.
Well, how do you see that dance? This is just a personal, your personal opinion. How do you see that dance of living in that, but not bouncing out to the other extremes, which often requires a quieting of any and all desire? Where do you see the role of desire? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From going to no desire and this still experience of a bowl of rice a day and quietude and darkness and contemplation to living the way we're all living in these wild arrays of the creative process.
I think that it may be necessary for individuals to take the time at one point in their life to quiet down and to get rid of all the extraneous stuff in their life so that they can find that stillness if that's necessary. But I think that any which way to the extreme, you know, is an imbalance. And that was the greatest, you know, the greatest discovery of the Buddha, you know, which was walking the middle path.
Exactly.
That this, you know, the highest path, the most direct path to enlightenment, to ascension, to the deepening of our existence is to actually be in balance between, you know, the material world and the spiritual world, and that any imbalance in either way can lead to disaster. And so that, you know, it is easy to be always at center if you are in a cave in some mountain and you don't have cell phones, you don't have...
No wives or children to
There's
deal
no
with.
wives, no children, you know, nobody to argue with you first thing in the morning, you know, all this is, you know, so you eliminate all that, then it's easy, and that might be necessary for you to find it first, but then it's important to actually be able to go back into the world and interact with the world, and you see how well you can maintain that relationship. And, you know, and I think that's really now what's necessary. It's the path of the masters today have to do both. And I think we're all walking into our mastery in that sense. You know, it's no longer appropriate for the spiritual people to go in their cave and say we don't need the material world. And it's no longer appropriate for the physicists to go into their laboratory and say we don't need the spiritual world. That the two come together, and eventually is found that they're not separate things. They're the same thing. That the material world is, you know, the spiritual world, and the spiritual world is the material world. It's never the egg or the chicken. It's always both.